Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Planet, the Digital Future, a focus on how existing and emerging digital technologies will increase efficiency and productivity across the construction industry. Brought to you today by Planet, the online news platform and independent magazine focused on the latest news, releases and insights from the plant machinery industry. I'm Declan Curry. I'm a journalist and broadcaster. I've been reporting on business and the economy for nearly 30 years. For the best part of a decade, I was on breakfast television on BBC One. I've presented my own programs on Radio 4. I've done documentaries for Radio 5 Live, and you'll find me most often nowadays as a business commentator on LBC News. I'm delighted to be here as your moderator for our discussions today, and I look forward to receiving your questions for our speakers. We encourage you to take a full and vigorous part in our discussions today. I'll tell you how you can do that in just a moment or so. We have a great lineup of speakers for you today, so let me talk you through the agenda. We've put it up on the screen for you to take a look at as well. We are, of course, grateful to our sponsors for their support and their insight. You'll find their names on the side of the screen. In a few minutes, we'll hear from Giles White of BOMAG GP. He'll talk about the development of autonomous construction machinery. At 10:30, Aidan McGeary, the Managing Director of Green Power Systems, on the move towards electrification. At 10:50, we have Rob Oliver, the Chief Executive of the Construction Equipment Association, with the outlook for the construction equipment landscape. At 11:10, we're joined by Owen Buttle from Merlo, UK. He'll talk about innovation and its new e-worker machines. At 11:30, we'll hear from James Ashford of Brigade Electronics on the use of proximity technology to enhance on-site safety. And at 11:50, we hear from Bill Hill, the Chief Executive of the Lighthouse construction charity. His remarks will include information on the use of the Construction Industry Helpline app. We've included a QR code for the LinkedIn profiles for all of our speakers. You'll see that on their introductory slide. Feel free to scan that quickly and then add them to your own personal connections. And then we'll wrap up all our speakers at 12:10. I know our speakers will cooperate with us to keep to that timetable. We all know how busy you are, and we're grateful to you for giving us your time today. So we'll do our best to make sure that we get you away on time at the end of the event. After each of our speakers, there's a brief amount of time for your questions. Now, you can ask your questions anytime you like using the Q&A function on your Zoom screen. Don't wait until the last minute, because you'll find that the time will go just like that. It is the best way for you to get the most out of today, to get the information that is most personally relevant to you and your business. So use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen to ask your questions of our speakers. There's also a chat function on the screen. We encourage you to use that function to network, to say hello to each other, and to post your own LinkedIn profile if you wish to do so. So it's the Q&A function for your questions to our speakers. It's the chat function for your own networking. And just a little reminder that both of those functions, the name that you use to log in, will be visible to other users. This is a live event, as you'll know from a year of Zoom and team calls. Things sometimes do go wrong. The broadband connection with our speakers might drop out. Any one of 100 things might go awry. If something goes wrong at this end, please do just sit tight and we'll fix it behind the scenes as soon as we can, and then we will resume with our planned schedule. So let's go directly now to hear from our first speaker today, and that is Giles White, the Technology Sales Manager at BOMAG UK. He's going to talk about the development of autonomous construction machinery. Giles has over 20 years experience working in the industry and is on the cutting edge of autonomous machinery. Welcome, please, Giles White.
Many thanks, Declan. So good morning, everybody. My name is Giles White, and I'm the Key Account and Technology Sales Manager for BOMAG Great Britain. We've been working on several technology projects in the last few years, based around the Connected Job Site 4.0, as well as autonomous data gathering and autonomous machine technology. As part of this presentation, I'll be covering the vision of the future, as well as where we are now, and also the realities of a job site today. In mid-2019, the construction industry and also wider technology providers came together under the Highways England Connected Autonomous Plant Group. The goal to make the site of the future a reality with a truly collaborative approach from all parties. With this bold goal also came a bold statement. The goal is to have autonomous sites as the norm by 2035 in the UK. This is a bold goal that can be made a reality. The roadmap to the Connected Autonomous Plant goal was published in the summer of 2020. Some extracts are shown here. The ambitious target and goals along the way are set with key milestones identified. The cooperation of authorities, designers, manufacturers and contractors have made this document possible. To understand the reasoning behind the CAP goal, several key benefits were identified. Efficiencies from enhanced machine control are well documented, proven, and adoption is increasing, but not yet the norm. Quality can be an easy gain, as it is not just about the quality job, it is the reproducibility and consistency of the results. Here, automation can make a big impact with repetitive tasks. Speed gains in modular and off-site assembly are clear, as well as utilising advances in technology to improve the efficiency on-site and also reduce the rework that is required, the right first time approach. Most importantly, and as we will see with auto braking, safety on the work site can be a huge benefit. Lastly, a point that is not shown in this section is semi-autonomous and autonomous machinery can help address the shortage of skilled, experienced operators that is going to become a big issue as the number of mega projects in the UK increases. 2 weeks ago, TRL launched their recommendations for an off-highway automated vehicles code of practice. This is the next step in the CAP project. They held a webinar to introduce it to the industry, and it is now available to download and consult with online. Technology and the ability to build autonomous machines is already here. The concept of BOMAG, the machine you can see here, not only brings together sensor technology and GPS, it also brings autonomous compaction control of the drum, a technology of today. This is the debut of BOMAG at BOMAG 2019, and here it is working in autonomous mode with a geofence boundary set for safety. So this machine can run as a remote control unit, it can run semi-autonomous where it's told what to do, or it can just be told, this is an area, compact it to the maximum, and then finish. It's a concept, but it's using technology that is available and working today to prove that it can be done. To put the future in perspective, we need to know where we are today. So lots of manufacturers on the site, lots of different machines on the site. Very few of those machines are connected, and there's minimal semi-automation on some of the machines. For compaction, which is what we specialise in, the systems are method spec. Basically, it's tables that were written in the 50s and the 60s, and this is how it's worked. The few operator aids and very few results are recorded, and very few machines are connected. The safety element of adopting this technology is clear to see by the removal of operatives from certain areas of sites. People-plant interface safety issues are reduced if the number of people on the site are reduced. The line marking robot at the bottom of the screen, taking operators out of the danger area, highlights some of the advantages of technology, and this is being used on the network today. The Highways England raised the bar statement that made 3D machine control compulsory to be used on major sites was a major factor in the increase of technology adoption over the last few years. Many technologies and ideas need to come together to make automation a reality. Safety can be a key gain, as can be seen here. The operator was unaware of the tyre coming his way. The barrier was his intended target. The roller was still accelerating as a sensor picked up the tyre and halted the roller in a controlled manner. Various sensors such as radar, as used here, LiDAR and AI-assisted cameras can be used to achieve this, or indeed a combination of sensors. Autonomy is only one part of the process to achieve the bold goal. Connected machines, big data, telematics, IoT are all key. The gains in efficiencies from digital displays for operators and the automatic recording of data are well proven around the world on all types of machinery. On compaction machinery, not having them is like asking you to walk up and down an imaginary line on rough ground precisely, forwards and backwards, while counting all day long with your eyes closed. Having the data live via the cloud is key to being able to make on-the-fly adjustments to the way work is carried out, and can mean the reduction in the number of site tests, which again removes people from danger. The standards are now being mandated, as we've seen, give efficiencies by taking control or guiding some of the elements of the site process. The previous slide showed a connected site, and here are a selection of data maps gathered from working sites in England. As a minimum, a visualisation of the work progress for operators, as well as the automatic counting and mapping of passes, is being used. The operator is then left to concentrate on rolling the correct area, and in tests around the world, a 20 to 30% saving and unnecessary passes has been achievable. By using connected digital recording of the site data, is being shown the amount of tests that the technician has to physically make on site can be reduced, again removing people away from danger. It isn't just on mega projects that automated and connected data collection and visualization can make a difference. With intelligent compaction on asphalt, as can be seen, the operator, site supervisor and back office can all see the site as it evolves in real time. And once again, coupling this data with automated testing technology means on-site testing can be reduced, again, removing technicians from harm's way. Autonomous technology doesn't mean that we have to wait for the future. The elements are already in use today on asphalt with autonomous drum control. Here, the operator selects the layer thickness, and then the sensors pick up the material stiffness and adjust the compaction energy to suit. Again, this leaves the driver to concentrate on the surroundings he's working in and also hitting the right lines for his rolling. So here the machine senses the stiffness of the ground and either increases or decreases the force to make the ground stiffer or to reduce it so it doesn't over compact. Again, this reduces failures and increases the speed of work. And the same with earthworks. The operator sets the target level that has been identified by prior testing, and then the sensors and drum take over, autonomously adjusting the compaction force depending on sensor feedback. These autonomous technologies mean that the productivity gains and consistent quality gains we associated with autonomy are already here. And here the drum's automatically changing the force, more or less depending on the ground conditions, all automatically without the operator having to do anything at all. Before I end, I would like to share this film of a study completed with the cooperation of many companies into connected autonomous plants using the machines of today as a stepping stone to tomorrow. So here's a standard roller, no different, doesn't look quite as advanced as BOMAG, fitted with a multitude of sensors and data. And here it's been used in remote control mode, no operator in the cab. The next step is semi-autonomous, where the driver drives it forwards and the roller then maps where it's been and automatically is shown reverses over exactly the same place. And here's a safety feature. As the man walks up, touches the machine, it automatically stops. And now connected autonomous plant. The paver lays a mat of material. The rollers pick up where the paver has been and automatically, no drivers on board, split the work between themselves and work backwards and forwards on their own. and all the data is reported back so it can be checked later. So back to the start, back to the end of the game, which is BOMAG, the machine that's been built, that works. But in order to get there, we need to go on a journey, and to need to finish the journey. To start with, to use today's technology today, 3D machine control, 2D machine control, operator site visualizations, that can all lead to the plan for tomorrow, all part of the connected autonomous plant group, the remote control of semi-autonomous machines, dual use machines, and AI enriched performance. By then, hopefully we can then realize the future, which is dedicated autonomous sites, artificial intelligence planning and delivery. Thank you very much for your time.
Giles, thank you. We have some time in hand for questions, and we have some questions already in our Q&A function. That's how you ask your questions to Giles. Just open up that Q&A box and type your question in. Just going back to that video that we saw of the tyre running in front of the machine and the machine stopping. Chris asks, how fast a reaction time do the autonomous brake systems have?
Well, the system's actually fitted on there. It's speed related. So as the roller increases in speed, it gets direct feed from the roller and it actually increases the stopping distance. And also it throws out a larger beam for the radar to report on. So as you go slower, it decreases the amount of time it takes to stop, and the machine knows this and it will then stop. It's not instantaneous, but it's very, very quickly. We rolled the tyre several times at around 0.5 metre to 1 metre in front of the machine, and it stopped every time.
I noticed you said it was a controlled stop, so it's not flinging the, if there's a driver in there, it's not flinging them through the cab. It is something that's regulated. You mentioned a few times during the course of the presentation the impact that this could have on health and safety. Emma asks, what are the health and safety implications of technology like this?
It comes from several different areas. The big one is, especially for earthworks and asphalt machines, is the reduction in the amount of testing that has to be done. The reality of testers, especially on asphalt, is that they're the last people on the job, which means they're isolated, quite generally working on their own. A lot of roadworks are now done at night, so it's a very vulnerable position. And there's various technologies that are being trialled and used now in the network to automate some of that process. But also, if we can actually do the job in a more regulated way, and we report on all the data and we can see any issues live, you don't have to go and test it if the machine's saying the job's been done correctly in the first place, or you can certainly reduce it.
And in terms of how widespread the use of this equipment might become on construction sites, and the range of equipment that might become autonomous or even connected in machine learning, Dean asks, what site equipment will need to be autonomous by, well, he's picked the year, 2033?
Well, 2035 is the bold goal, to have the majority of major sites. It's not going to be every site. It's not going to be every building site. There needs to be a scale, because not only does the machine need to be built to be an autonomous machine, also the sites have to be, with current technology, probably a dedicated autonomous site. So it needs to be a large scale site to make it work. But it will be the majority of machines, but it's generally the repetitive jobs where, say you're with a roller rolling backwards and forwards 20 times, or a dump truck has to go from point A to point B and be loaded at each end. It's a repetitive thing. The reality is, certainly with today's technology, operators will probably still be required for the foreseeable future, but it may mean that they're more of a safety and a guide and a drive, rather than actually carrying out the operations.
And in terms of that schedule that you mentioned, Ed Barry asks, what time frame do you give for this becoming the norm?
I think 2035 is a very, very bold goal. It's optimistic. The technology is there, but there's lots of things that have to be put in place first, around safety issues, around the code of practice, which TRL have moved to the next step to make it a practical reality. I think semi-autonomous and remote control machines will become a lot more prevalent in the next 5 to 10 years with mega projects, in order to reduce the effect of the skill shortage, which we will have. Full autonomy, I think, is a very bold goal. And with today's technologies, it can be done, but it's going to be quite a hard goal to achieve. But with the speed of technology changing, it could all change in 5 years' time.
But will people accept it? Rachel asked, will this technology achieve widespread acceptance and usage? I suppose another way of asking that is that you said that major sites would embrace this. What about smaller sites where perhaps the amount of money available for investment in new technology isn't as available?
I think that also the industry will have to change in some ways about the whole model that it works, and purchasing, leasing, hiring. If the machines become so expensive they can't be bought, is the model then to lease from the manufacturer or to lease from a certain supplier, or there'll be a central store that maybe for the major projects is owned by an authority and is then hired from the authority to complete their works. There's lots of different models. I think full automation on lots of small sites is a thing of the far future. But what might come in, and what has started to happen already, is on smaller sites, semi-automation, 3D machine control, where the operator guides the machine and the machine knows what it's doing and what it needs to do. That's already happening now, and the increase in that has been massive in the last 18 months. So I can see that side of it, and as more people adopt it, the technology becomes cheaper, therefore it becomes an easier goal to achieve.
John Pierce notes that this is a large step for a typical construction worker. In addition to a site manager, will an IT manager now be an essential role on site as well?
Well, some of the technology, as we saw with some of the rollers, but also with diggers, is also being used a lot more now. It's been adopted certainly by major contractors in England. And one of the things that initially comes out is that very question. But with autonomous drive and autonomous controls, in some ways, once the initial training's been carried out, they're actually easier machines to use. And that's what a lot of the drivers are finding now, a lot of the operators, are finding now, is that when they're using a machine, they can actually concentrate on the site around them, where they're driving, to make sure they're hitting the right lines and doing the right thing, because they don't have to think about the little bits of data that are really, really important, because they're being handled automatically. But yeah, it is a step up, but it's not necessarily a massive step up in the use of the machines.
And you've talked about the benefits of the use of machines. You've mentioned health and safety. You've mentioned helping to overcome the skills shortage that perennially besets this industry. Is that actually the end game? Is it productivity? Maisie asks, how much more efficient is this technology compared to manned vehicles?
Well, there have been lots and lots of studies over years, especially on the earthwork side, and I know that some of the figures are sort of 20 to 30% more accurate and higher productivity from using 3D machine control, semi-autonomous, where the operator guides it to site. It's programmed to dig and do whatever it's done, and he just controls what's happening, but the actual machine knows what it's doing and will only allow you to do what it should be doing. It works to a map that's built into it. So those efficiencies they're real, but it is a mixture of all things. It's not always going to be more necessarily time saving, but it could be a lot more accurate, which means you reduce the amount of rework, which saves money in the long run. So there's lots of different avenues, and there's lots of different ways that it'll affect the bigger schemes, certainly.
And what I think is going to be the last question in our discussion, and this comes from Nora, asking about the insurance implications on behalf of the employer if there is an accident with this technology. As far as you know, what are they? Well,
this is all part of the roadmap, and also the TRL code of practice, is that it's not just the companies building machines like ourselves or the contractors that are using them. It's the whole concept has to be looked at, and all the legislation needs to be put in place. Codes of practice, the safety, the insurance is one big one. Who's liable for what? None of that exists at the minute. The framework is now out for consultation. Until that has actually been put in place, the reality is full automation, it won't happen because that framework needs to be put in place first. But that was all part of the CAP group, was bringing together the authorities as well as manufacturers and end users.
Giles, thank you so much. Giles White, who's the Technology Sales Manager at BOMAG GB. Thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing your insight with us. And thank you to all of you who asked questions during that discussion as well. Remember, use the Q&A function to ask your questions of our speakers. Use the chat function to network and to share your LinkedIn profile with the other participants who are watching this discussion today. Well, now we're going to hear from Aidan McGeary, who's the Managing Director of Green Power Systems, and he's going to talk about the move towards electrification. The construction industry, as you know, is looking to cut emissions drastically. Aidan can provide key insight into how electrification will impact the future of construction machinery. Welcome, please, Aidan McGeary.
Good morning, Declan. Thank you very much. So, good morning, and thank you for joining us at this conference with Plant Planet magazine. My name is Aidan McGeary, and today I'd like to introduce you to our business, Green Power Systems, and talk about the battery storage products we represent and share with you how this technology can be used as part of an electrification strategy by business and the wider construction and plant hire industries to achieve the net zero targets that have been set by government around carbon emissions. The need to decarbonise is well publicised, and I'm sure everyone listening is aware of it to some degree. And while there are many different approaches and ways carbon emissions can be reduced, electrification is a key one that can work for our industry. And while we have many years of development ahead of us, we can start today, as I will go on to explain. Green Power Systems are the exclusive distribution partners throughout the UK and Ireland for the Electric's power range of battery electrical storage manufactured in Austria. No electrification strategy can succeed without battery storage. The key is designing a strategy that suits the specific needs of each business, and this is where we aim to help both individual businesses and the wider sector. The construction side of the future is a concept that we have been working on for some time, and while there are many considerations to what contributes to the carbon footprint of a construction site, how a site will operate effectively with reduced emissions is one we believe is no longer a question for the future, but is a real and immediate requirement. Two solutions we can use our technology to deliver today are those of diesel generator hybridizing and construction equipment charging. Effectively hybridizing a diesel generator means several things, from being able to downsize the generator and still get the same results as far as power outputs, while also achieving reductions around runtime, fuel consumption, noise, and exhaust emissions, makes this a very attractive solution for an increasing number of sites. While hybridizing diesel generators is not a new concept, and it is something many operators will be familiar with, capability around our unit to support high voltage and high amp inputs and outputs, combined with the inbuilt distribution board, means many more applications can now be considered when deciding when a diesel generator can be hybridized. By stabilizing the load curve, we reduce the consumption of fuel per kilowatt of power produced. The peak power boost feature means that we can add the power from our battery storage onto the maximum power output of a generator to meet higher consumer requirements without increasing the size of the generator and the associated financial and environmental costs. As OEMs increase the size and number of their product ranges that are powered by purely electrical means, and end users' desire to use this new equipment grows, we expect difficulties to arise around how the infrastructure to provide the power to an increasing population of units will be developed. It is unlikely that the grid alone will be able to provide the necessary power, and certainly not at peak times. Therefore, we recognize that battery storage of this type, with its plug-and-play flexibility and scalability, will play a key role in facilitating a transition from diesel-powered equipment over to electrically powered equipment. In this example, Electric's teamed up with Volvo in France, where for 1 week, a ProBox unit was used to provide the power for an excavator and dumper on an off-grid island mode basis. As no mains grid power was available, this was done using an 80 kilowatt inverter with 140 kilowatt of batteries, and the onboard transformers, another feature of this unit, allows us to form our own grid. This solution is mostly suitable for applications where the equipment is being used on an intermittent basis or with lower power requirements over short to medium term timescales. But the unit's ability to deliver smart charging function means that we can ensure only the cheapest and greenest energy is used to power the equipment. In this other example in Europe, where the customer is not allowed to run diesel generators at certain times when working in certain towns and cities, by utilizing the ProBox, they are able to extend their working shifts and achieve efficiencies and cost benefits they wouldn't otherwise be able to. As legislation like this comes into effect throughout more cities around the UK and Europe, it is easy to see the benefits this battery technology can provide. There are several reasons why these products are so well suited to the industry, especially while it is working through this period of transition. While getting to grips with this new technology and trying to understand what configurations work best for it, the modular functionality allowing us to scale the size of the batteries as required is a welcome feature. The ability to easily add renewable energy sources to charge the unit are a key feature in ensuring it meets the requirements for a site or business wishing to implement renewable energy. The units have several unique features. On the power electronics side, we use bidirectional full hybrid frequency inverters. On the storage side, we use LFP, lithium iron phosphate chemistry. This means greater safety, stability, recyclability, lower thermal runaway, and increased efficiencies for the cycles and longevity of the battery modules. In addition to this, we have an active battery management system, which has been developed in-house, and going further is the network analysis module, which measures them and monitors the data coming from either the generator or the grid in combination with the battery management system. This can decide what power output is required. From the inverter to the battery management system and the NAM unit, everything is designed, flashed, and chipped in-house at X Electrics in Austria. In addition to the main features already shared, safety and environmental sustainability are paramount in the design of these units. Safety has been considered at the design and manufacturing stages of the cell, module, and unit level of the ProBox. And using LFP chemistry, which has many benefits over other more volatile and difficult to recycle alternatives. The wide range of unit sizes ensures we have the right size for any application and the ability to grow with sites as their own capabilities around electrification develop. Our partners at X Electrics have developed some very sophisticated software tools to help us understand individual applications and analyze the specific requirements, so we can then propose the most suitable solutions. From understanding the size of the generator, we can either produce our own load curve or take one from the client and analyze the data to be able to feed back what reductions we can offer in terms of generator sizing, runtime, fuel consumption, and CO2 output, complete with information on the ROI calculation. Before I finish, please take 2 minutes to watch our video animation, which we hope can explain one of the ways in which our technology can benefit business and the construction plant hire industries. We hope that you found our presentation of interest, and we look forward to engaging with anyone who wishes to understand more about how we can assist them with our plans to electrify their business on the path to achieving a decarbonised future. I'm happy to take any questions, or please contact us on the details shown on the slide. Thank you.
Aidan, thank you very much. Nothing like a bit of dramatic music to grab everyone's attention at the end of that. I don't know if that's what the young people refer to as a banging tune or not. Some practical questions coming in, and thank you for all your questions. You can use the Q&A function to ask your questions for Aidan. Daniel Bloom asks, are the generators particularly costly to run?
Well, these aren't generators. This is battery storage. So the concept is that we would combine this with a generator, and you know, the whole idea of hybridizing a generator is to bring down the running costs. So reduce the size of the generator, reduce the runtime of it, and ultimately the fuel consumption, and satisfy all the other legislative requirements that maybe don't exist today, but in the drive towards decarbonizing, that is one of the objectives of the industry. So
sure. And John McKenna asks, how can he get hold of them?
John knows my number. He can give me a call.
A couple of questions for Julia Moore. Let's do them one after the other. Implementing this technology, does it require access to green energies, or can it be run off the grid?
It can be run off the grid. So the Pro Box will work in both on-grid and off-grid functionality. It's depends on the application, and this is where where the grid exists but maybe has limitations. As the requirement for charging more and more electrical machinery exists, and the grid is possibly not large enough to cope with that in certain sites and certain locations, that's a perfect application where this type of technology can step in to support the grid, reducing maybe more expensive infrastructure that might have to be brought in, and facilitating the ability for construction operators to implement more electric equipment. So working on grid and off grid is a function. The other benefit of this equipment is that it can work in an off-grid situation, but you can create a microgrid, a small grid on a site if the conditions allowed it, where it could be combined with a renewable energy source. It could be combined with generators, but it acts as it acts as its own mini grid, which is really one of the key. It's a key function that we think remote construction sites will need.
And is this where the idea that this is greener, that this helps the industry reduce carbon emissions, is that what underpins this suggestion that it is able to make use of electricity that's been generated from renewable sources? It's able to make use of its own renewable sources and capture that and then use it throughout the industry.
Yeah, so one of the typical challenges with renewables is that it's time dependent. So when the wind's blowing, electricity is there. When the sun's shining, solar panels are generating electricity. But when they go, so a construction site that has to run over a consistent period of time can't handle that lack of consistency. And this is where battery technology comes into play. So designed in, if we take into account the necessary outputs and requirements of the site, and we calculate what power we can generate from renewable sources, we can specify the battery appropriately.
The second question from Julia was, how scalable is the technology? What are the limitations on its use?
Look, in terms of scalability, we can go up to 250 kilowatt size inverter, 500 megawatt hour of battery, and it is a modular system. So we can plug extra battery storage in behind the same size inverter. I guess it has to work commercially, which is really the challenge in terms of how big it can go. I think it's really as big as any project will allow it to satisfy the commercial and the legislative requirements of a site.
Some questions from Maria. Will this require a change in current site configuration, or can it be slotted into place?
I think there's a bigger piece of work to be done around. I think it will be difficult to get any real benefit on most sites today. So there's a real planning process needs to go in. There's a real thought process, and I talk about the electrification strategy. I think any construction company that wants to explore this as a means to achieve a reduction in carbon outputs, it needs some thought. And this is where we would encourage people to engage with us and start to think about what they want to achieve, how they want to get there, and the batteries are part of that. They're not the whole solution, but they're a significant part of the solution, and that's the conversation we want to start talking about. The equipment is well publicized. Lots of OEMs are manufacturing the dumpers and the excavators. We just see a bit of a, maybe the infrastructure that's required for sites to be able to power that, it maybe needs a bit of work, and we feel that batteries is a key component of that.
And just as a follow-up to that, Maria also asked, does it require any special protections or create any hazards? No,
the units have their own built-in distribution boards, transformers. So from a safety point of view, as long as it's treated with the respect that electricity should be treated with, then it's there's nothing particularly hazardous about it. It's electrical power as we know it, just in a much more flexible form, which is probably important for this period of transition while people try and get to grips with how they can electrify sites more easily.
A question from John. You mentioned legislation around quiet working hours. Are there any other forms of legislation on the horizon which will help force the adoption of electric plant?
I'm probably personally not completely in tune with up to date with legislation as it currently is, but I think the feeling is there's a strong trend from government level and globally that this is the direction to travel. We talk to quite a lot of OEMs, we talk to quite a lot of tier 1 construction companies, and it's at this high level, this is very much the way it's going, and I would envisage regulations that we are familiar with in London around emissions and running clean engines. We would expect to see that sort of become more widespread.
Chris suggests that perhaps it should be made mandatory across the whole industry to have a battery like this on site. I can't imagine you disagreeing with that.
No, it's a period of transition. The point is, the end result is it's a lot like the previous presentation on autonomy. We'll probably never get to a place where every site complies with all of the concepts, but there is a journey here, and the end. We think we play a part in that journey.
Aidan, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation and for sharing your insight with us. That's Aidan McGeary. He's the Managing Director of Green Power Systems. Next, we get our overview of the industry from the Chief Executive of the Construction Equipment Association, and that is Rob Oliver. He's been the chief executive at the CEA for over 20 years. He's got that wisdom of 2 decades of change and adaptation in the industry, and now he's going to share his outlook for the construction equipment landscape. Rob, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Declan. I'll try and live up to your billing as offering some wisdom, but I'll just see what PowerPoint has got to offer us today. Good. Well, thanks for the opportunity today to just say a few words and really talk about some of the things that come across my desk as Chief Executive of the CEA. For those of you who don't know the CEA, we've been going back to about 1940s. That's where we can trace our roots back to. We have about 150 members. 3 of them are actually presenting today, I'm pleased to say. And we also own the Plantworks exhibition, which many of you have been to, and the promoters of the CESA scheme, which was set up to address the problem of plant theft in the industry, and is a database and marking system for machines. And I'll actually talk a little bit about that later in the presentation. I guess in terms of digital, it's such a big subject and the definition of digitization, which you can see on the screen there, really doesn't really bring to life what it actually involved. And a fairly random list of digital applications are shown there, from artificial intelligence to augmented reality and everything in between. What I've done to do, first of all, is actually share some information on the state of the market, because in terms of my presentation, I want to try and explain why the pandemic, tragic as it has been over the last 18 months, actually provides a significant opportunity for our industry and an opportunity for those that are offering digital solutions. And also, in the course of this presentation, I've stolen a few slides from my friends at the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. Those of you that maybe attended our recent CEA AGM will be familiar with some of these slides. But quite obviously, the construction industry was badly hit, as with other sectors, around about March, April of last year. And you can see the dip in activity and output from the construction sector, which kicked in. But what you'll also see is quite an encouraging and swift return to output in the really from the late summer onwards. You can see that the curve in those lines is going up. And if you look at the predictions for 2021 for this year, you can see there's some very significant upturn which is predicted. And if you look at the right-hand column there, the prediction for the upturn in total construction is a whopping 26%. And the other elements there deal with infrastructure up 40%, others private housing up 30%. So it's all quite an encouraging landscape in that point of view. If we drill down a little bit and look at where we are in terms of the construction equipment market, and here I've borrowed a slide from my friend Mr. Paul Lyons, who I can see sitting there in the virtual audience. You'll see again a very V-shaped recovery in terms of the sales of construction equipment, where we're comparing quarterly sales. And towards the end of last year, you can see that we go from the red figures to the black figures. And most significantly are actually the latest figures, which is the quarter to the end of March of this year, where we've seen a 30% uptick. Now, we would expect that kind of figure, because if you compared that quarter with the previous quarter, well, that was just when COVID was starting to strike and things started to get very tricky. But if you compared that number and that part of the line for March 21 with March 19, that's actually something like 2.9% up on 2019, which of course was a non-COVID year. So again, that's a very significant indicator to show that the market has rebounded very strongly, and that there's some prospects of sales topping the 2019 level, which were fairly good in themselves. Two things then are probably going to be very, very significant in driving future sales, and they really are interlinked. So you've all heard the phrase "build back better." There's some dispute as to who came up with that. Boris Johnson started using the phrase in May last year, and the then presidential candidate Joe Biden weighed in with that from July of last year, and that's become his mantra. And if you're following the investment plans in North America and the US, you'll see that Build Back Better is very much a big campaign, and there are trillions of dollars scheduled to go into that program there of infrastructure investment. And similarly, as we've heard from the previous speaker in terms of the zero carbon agenda and the decarbonisation, that's being very, very heavily driven. As I think we all know, we have the COP26 conference scheduled for Glasgow in November of this year. And again, our government is making great play of being able to host that, and has actually ramped up their own decarbonisation targets since the announcements of COP26. And of course, now the Biden administration is in, they're actually showing some leadership on that issue as well. So if you take those two parts together, which is building back better after the shock of COVID, and better actually means greener, because greener then starts to meet the decarbonisation targets that have been set. I've just gone over that. Let's go back one. And the reason that construction has yet again been chosen as the way of stimulating the economy is not difficult to understand. When there's been an economic shock, going right back to the days of when Maynard Keynes was the top economist, the injection of government spending to stimulate demand and to stimulate gross domestic product has always been one of the first tools that government turns to. It's slightly ironic that the sectors that have suffered the most, of course, are hospitality and leisure. And apart from some subsidies on eating out last summer, there's not a lot that government can do to stimulate demand when there's an element of lockdown or social distancing involved. So we've been fortunate in the sense that the government was very supportive of keeping the construction sites open during the last year, and we've seen from the figures that that's the effect that has had, but also very supportive of investing in infrastructure going forward. And I've just put up on this particular slide the piece of work that was done by the Chancellor's Institute of Building last year, where they estimated that the value of the construction sector was something over 10% of the overall economy. And one of the old statistics, which we always trot out, but is nevertheless, I think, quite an accurate assessment, that for every pound of construction output generates nearly approaching £3 of total economic activity. So this is why government has now turned its attention very much to the Roadmap to Recovery, which has been sponsored by the Construction Leadership Council. On this particular slide, the coloured parts of the plan on the left may be a little bit indistinct, but I'm just going to pick out a couple of things on the right there, because the plan there was actually a recovery plan, which we're part way through anyway. And you'll know another Boris Johnson phrase was Project Speed, which he announced very early probably just in late spring last year. And that was a commitment to accelerate the construction pipeline. And government identified 340 projects worth up to something like £37 billion to be escalated and to be speeded through. Now, what we don't know yet is how successful that is going to be, because we've often heard of government promises to speed up investment in infrastructure, and sometimes these things do hit the buffers or do get slowed down, but the intention is certainly there. And the clear link then with the carbon zero part of it is to the bottom of that slide, where under the construct zero, which again has been promoted by the Construction Leadership Council, they set out a 9-point plan to reduce carbon emissions in the industry. And if we look at that plan very briefly, of that 9 points in construction zero, the one of most immediate interest to the construction equipment manufacturers is the very first point, which is the acceleration of the shift of the construction workforce to zero emission vehicles and on-site plant. And as Aidan covered previously, that particular aspiration fits very much with the electrification of machines, but also there are other options which I'll come on to. So if you look at in the 9 points in total, I think they look at all the key areas where we're going to see pressures to decarbonise. Now, this issue has been taken up at a European level. In Europe as a whole, there's an initiative called the Green Deal, which again is a rebuilding program, Build Back Better program, but called the Green Deal within the European Union. The CEA is a member of the Committee for European Construction Equipment, and they've been working on their perception of what the roadmap may look like in terms of the decarbonisation of construction equipment going through 2035 and 2050. And the assessment is based around what we call the 4 pillars. The bottom right-hand corner deals with alternative energy sources. So we are talking about electric drives, we are talking about biofuels. In particular, I think we're talking about hydrogen, where I think there are some very big opportunities there. But whereas when you go to meetings as I do, when this whole issue of decarbonisation and sustainability comes up, the suggestion that electricity or the use of electricity is the be and end all is not quite right. It's very important, but it's only part of 1/4 of one of these 4 pillars. And the 3 other pillars, which you can see from the slide, first of all, deals with the machine efficiency. So it's about how you put the machine together and how the different components can be optimized and working together. And that in turn actually relies on a certain degree of digitization with the different components effectively communicating to each other. And of course, the bigger picture anyway is the whole manufacturing process and what the carbon footprint may be of that. So you have to look at the holistic view of the environmental impact. You then get to operational efficiency. Now that is very much to do with operator training, where you have operators, and of course in the future, as we've heard, there may not be so numerous. But then it's encouraging those operators or training those operators to get the full benefits of the intelligent machine use. As we heard from the BOMAG presentation, you can have semi-autonomous use where you can have someone in position on the operator seat, but the machine is working for itself. So again, that I think is a big area, because it's to do with the making sure that the machine is working to maximum productivity. And if you can do that, that actually makes a contribution to decarbonisation. Then the third area then of those four is then process efficiency. It's about having the right equipment for the right job used correctly, and get from that establishing an optimal workflow. As it said, including the choice of the machine or the combination of connected machines. I think the point was made earlier from one of the other presentations about the connectivity between machines and the absence of that in a lot of situations. And as I think I'll point out later, that maybe coming towards a system of open systems and connectivity might actually promote better process efficiency on job sites. Moving on, just almost at random, but I had 5 pointers to the digital boost, which I've called. So let's have a look at some different aspects that are going to be significant going forward. First one, again, that's been mentioned. When we left the EU, it removed the possibility for us to continue with the same labour profile that we had for our construction sites. Our European guest workers, some will still remain because of the policies government have put in place to allow them to do that. But there's a general recognition that the numbers available to work on our construction sites going forward, particularly in a boom period, are going to be constrained. And if you look at some press reports earlier this year, that labour shortage is translating into higher rates of labour. And as labour costs take off and get more expensive, then that will mean that the application of newer technologies will commensurately become more affordable. More affordable for two reasons, because the labour to capital gap is closing, but also as newer technologies are used more and more as standard, then their relative costs will fall anyway. The second point, early on in the presentation, we saw the sales graph of what was happening in terms of sales of construction equipment. Thanks to digitization, actually the sales graphs are much, much less important than they were. It's actually the utilization rates of machines which are made possible by the use of telemetry to get that data, which is now more important. And our colleagues at CSUS in Europe actually have a group looking at this, something they call the Uptime Tracker Program, to see whether the data can be collected on a pan-European basis. I first became aware of the importance of this probably 4 years ago, sitting in an international meeting with other trade associations from around the world, and our friends from the Chinese associations already had that data, and that was 4 years ago. So I think we're a little bit behind the curve on that particular data source. The third area too is, again, something I hinted at before, which is a quote I've included there from the Centre for Digital Built Britain. Openness is a central principle for achieving effective information management of the built environment. And that has been a frustration in the past, where there have been some excellent systems that have been introduced by CEA members and others, but being able to harvest the machine data from a mixed fleet has been a challenge. I think there's a lot of work now going on to mitigate that. But in the same way in the past where we started to use personal computers, it was only when we started to use the same platform that we could communicate between those computers, and we had the digital revolution that we've had in our own homes and households. Number 4, and this is something close to home for the CEA actually, but it's quite an interesting one in terms of marketing approach, and that is that with the absence of physical meetings, physical trade shows, and other opportunities for people to get together within our business. It's led some OEMs to take different routes to market and look at possibilities of different routes to market. So, for example, there's been a lot of product launches over the last year where people hadn't been able to attend, but they'll still be done virtually, and I think in many cases very successfully. And what we're seeing now is that some of the leading OEMs are deprioritizing their support for traditional trade show formats and looking at engaging with their customers and potential customers more on a virtual basis, or even on a more local basis. It was interesting for us to see, for example, that the biggest trade show in the world, bar none, so it's the biggest of any sector in the world, which is BOMAG. They've been affected by the pandemic, and they've postponed their event from April of next year to the end of October, and that attracts something like, in the past, something like 600,000 people. And the final example that I'd give there is that if we're going to improve our performance in terms of decarbonisation and environmental impact, you always have to have some ways of measuring that improvement. And for the last 2 years or more, the CEA has been partnering with the air quality people at HS2 to help them meet their targets and meet their compliance requirements for the equipment that is used on their site. And what we found, and this is by me an application of big data, is that we were sitting on a database of something like 300,000 machines with our CESA scheme, which is agricultural equipment as well as construction equipment. And so we've been able to adapt that database to supply information on emissions in the terms of what stage engine is in the machines that are being used on site with HS2. And Balfour Beatty, as a main contractor, has been very supportive of that too. Now, what I'm going to do now is to just put a short video up there. If I stop screen sharing, we'll see if the wonders of science works.
Managing emissions on the road is pretty easy. And we're on our way to having greener, cleaner cities. But on construction sites, it's not so easy. Without any registration numbers or other unique identifiers, it's hard to know how clean a construction machine is, even for site managers. CESA ECV solves this problem. As the only official registration scheme for construction machines, we've been capturing all of the important data about construction machines since 2007. Now, with CESA ECV, we can easily display engine-specific emission data with a triangular security marking plate that features a 5-digit alphanumeric code. With our easy-to-use clearing portal, managers can create projects, add sites, and invite suppliers. Suppliers can then add their machinery manifests based on ECV codes, so that the system can provide each machine's specific data that will be required on site, including engine emission levels. From there, auditors and project managers can drill down into this ECV data to ensure compliance, less confusion, less errors, and more understanding and control of construction machine emissions. With clear, colour-coded visible labels displaying each machine's emission stage, you can ensure any non-compliant machines are kept off-site. To find out how you can get involved, head to cesascheme.org/ECV.
So I just sort of I'd slipped an advertisement in there. So, but if you're interested in finding more about CESA ECV, please do contact me, and I'll put you on to the operators of that. And finally, just one little cautionary tale. Digital can be a great enabler, as we've seen, and it's going to have a fantastic, is having a fantastic influence on the progress of our industry, and will continue to do so. But it can also be a disruptor. And many years ago, back in the last century, I chaired something called the Photo Imaging Council. And around that table were the senior executives from names like Fuji, Kodak, Canon, etc. And suddenly this thing called electronic imaging came about. We wondered what it was. It was then called digital imaging eventually. Digital imaging then superseded the old way of taking photographs, which involved you having a camera, it involved you having a film, and it involved you having to spend the money on developing and processing to get your prints. Some of those companies in that sector were very slow to adopt this new technology. And Kodak, for example, was one of the top 10 brands in the world for any products. It fell by the wayside and is a shadow of its former self. Because today, when you think about Fuji and Kodak, Fuji was last in the news because they are involved in providing chemicals and support for new vaccines against COVID. And Kodak are now more known for chemicals and their work in pharma. Last year, they got a $700 million loan from the American government to manufacture hydroxyl chloroquine, which was actually a treatment against malaria. So it's a long way away from their old stomping ground of cameras. And it was also a chemical which, for a certain period, the President of the United States thought was very good to counter COVID. So watch out for your potential for digital disruptors and the way you may need to change your business and change your products accordingly, because just in the future, you may have to compete with machines like this, which is a combination of a pneumatic drill, this is just a model of it, a dozer, and a 3D printer. Coming to a construction site near you, the only thing to watch out for there is actually made of Lego. So think about what materials you're making machines as well. So that's my final thought. The future is going to be interesting, and I hope you all have a very successful part in that.
Rob Oliver, thank you very much. We appreciate your thoughts and the overview that you have given us. We've had some great questions, but I'm afraid we no longer have the time in which to discuss them here in this conference. What we're going to ask you to do, Rob, and with apologies to our questioners, Rob, we're going to ask you to pick up the questions and provide a written answer to those who've asked them during the course, during the rest of the morning. So, Rob, thank you very much. We'll ask you to give some written answers to the questions that we've received. Thank you for submitting your questions. And we move on now to our next speaker, who's Owen Buttle, who's the National Sales Manager at Merlo UK. He's going to talk about innovation and its new e-worker machine. So, Owen, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Declan. Let me just get the PowerPoint going for you quickly. Okay, good morning. My name's Owen Buttle. Thank you for joining me today on the digital event being hosted by Plant Planet. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Merlo history and some of the innovations in recent years that have progressed into more digital and electronic technologies to aid the operation and productivity of our machines. The Merlo Group was founded in 1964, but the history of Merlo started in 1911 when Mr. Giuseppe Merlo opened a blacksmith workshop. In 1964, the first Merlo machinery products were launched, an articulated chassis four-wheel drive dumper and a self-propelled concrete mixer, both with hydrostatic transmissions. Other key products followed, but most notably the first telehandler in 1981 with boom side shift, a feature that's still present in the range today. And in 1987, the first side-mounted telehandler was introduced with 360-degree visibility. In 1991, Merlo launched the world's first rotating telehandler, known in the market today as the Roto. From the very beginning, the Merlo Group has focused its growth based on innovation and safety within the construction sector. In 2019, the evolution of construction products continued with the launch of a complete new panoramic and roto range, comprising of 24 new models with completely new technology, concepts and design, ranging from the Chingo track loader seen on your left to the 35-metre lift roto on your right. I'd now like to take you through some of the advanced innovations and safety features in the range that we've incorporated to aid everyday working practices. Adaptive Stability Control System was launched with the new range of construction machines in 2019. ASCS for short is a complete attachment recognition system equipped with an in-cab 10-inch digital display screen. Machine stability adapts the machine parameters to the attachments fitted and the working conditions. Through the use of genuine Merlo attachments, the ASCS system automatically adjusts the visual load chart seen on the digital display according to the load center of the attachment. For the recognition of the attachments, there are magnetic sensors mounted on all attachments produced by Merlo that marry up with an additional sensor within the boom head. Once the attachment has been coupled to the machines, the ASCS system will update the cab display accordingly. ASCS system is multifunctional and offers a number of additional features that make our machines the safest on the market and aids the operator in efficiency and productivity. Through the commands, it's possible to set the maximum movement speed of the boom function, giving the operator complete control for the most delicate applications when loading, but hydraulic speed needed to return the boom to its loading position. On the screen, you will also see a load-bearing capacity indicator. In grey is the machine's maximum capacity, in this instance 3,500 kilos. In white is the maximum capacity of the boom in its current position, and blue is the current weight of the load on the machine. This increases the efficiency to the operator in a number of ways. One, the operator can use the machine to calculate the load weight. Two, the operator can simulate lifts in advance to find the maximum load weight that can be placed at a given height. And finally, three, the operator has constant feedback on the machine's capabilities. Included in the display is a digital level indicator. In accordance with EN 15000 that was implemented across all manufacturers in 2010, variable reach machines are now required to restrict the hydraulic movement that could potentially position the machine in an unstable position. Unique to Merlo Panoramics is the virtual display of the safe working area and the assistance of pop-ups to aid the operator in returning the load to a safe position. This stability index is calculated from the attachment recognition, the load position using boom angle sensors, the extension of the boom, and finally the load weight. Moving on to the roto range, the technology advances even further. Not only do you see the vertical and horizontal load chart, but in addition you have a 360-degree bird's eye view. This also allows you to set slew restrictions for the turret and the working areas for greater productivity. The controls for the roto have been designed to reduce the setup time by using an automated system to deploy the stabilizers and self-level the machine ready for lifting, as shown in Control Panel 1. Control Panel 2 allows the machine to be leveled whilst on wheels with both side-to-side movement and front-to-back movement. Like with the stabilizers, there's an automatic leveling function for when operating on wheels. New for 2021 is an upgraded Merlo mobility system. This is a service that provides geolocation and advanced telemetry of the machines. Merlo mobility will be offered at 3 levels from customer to dealer platforms with a variation of accessibility such as remote digital dash, telemetry of the machine, fluid levels, temperatures, anti-theft and maintenance planning. Within the software, we have the virtual dash that gives you an exact replica of the in-cab display along with all indicators. It's possible to monitor the machine at any given time by selecting the on-screen indicators. Engine RPM, travel speed are all visible as you would see in the cab of the machine. Summary screens enable you to visualize the machine data and productivity, kilometers traveled, hours worked, fuel consumption, and the modes of use such as idle time, lifting and loading, or traveling. Finally, the Merlo Mobility gives you a platform to manage your fleet maintenance by showing the hours of each machine in the fleet and allowing you to set scheduled maintenance reminders. The system also stores historical maintenance data. This software will be available towards the end of this year. Moving on from Merlo Mobility and on to new products. Coming soon this year to Merlo is the new e-worker, which is 100% electric. The e-worker will come in 2 versions. One will be a 2-wheel drive and the other a 4-wheel drive with a lift capacity of 2.5 tonne. So this machine will have a true 8-hour working cycle with lead acid batteries, which will have a 9-hour charge time. This technology has no restrictions on the amount of charges like lithium. It's a proven technology as used in the industrial forklift industry and can be recycled at the end of life. If you want to find out more information on the e-worker, please visit our website on www.merlo.com. Thank you again for your time today. And finally, I'd like to just finish the presentation with a product video on the Merlo construction range.
Thank you very much, Owen. A few questions for you in the Q&A box. If I could ask you, please, just to help us move things along, if you could take a look at those and give a quick written answer to some of them. They're requesting some technical details, so that's probably the best form of answering those questions. So thank you for your questions. If you submitted them, Owen is going to take a look at them now and send you a quick written reply as well. So Owen Buttle from Merlo UK, thank you very much. We now hear from James Ashford, who's a key account manager at Brigade Electronics, on the use of proximity technology to enhance on-site safety. Brigade is some of the biggest players in using technology to make construction sites safer. James, good morning. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Declan, and thank you for having me here to present Brigade as well. And thanks to the Plant Planet team for all the help today. I'm just going to bring up the presentation. So my name is James Ashford, and I'm here to present Brigade Electronics Vehicle Safety Systems, Robust Products for a Robust Terrain. It's quite a frightening statistic that we see there, but it's a very real one, that each year about 7 workers die as a result of accidents involving vehicles or mobile plants on construction sites, and a further 92 are seriously injured. And many of you working within the construction industry will be familiar with such slogans as "Come home safe," illustrating the need to be aware of dangers that are contained within the industry. Why is that the case? Well, in certain cases, it can be just the sheer size and weight of the mobile plant equipment. Pedestrians are not always seen when they work around these vehicles. If we then couple that with poor weather conditions, the mud, the dirt, the water that is thrown up by these vehicles as they travel around, all these factors work together to produce or reduce the visibility of the operators. And given the fact that all these work in close proximity, this can result in accidents. Many construction companies try and combat this by helping to reduce the amount of contact between pedestrian and plant. Perhaps by zoning areas, you may hear of a plant-only area or a pedestrian-only zone. But that isn't always possible because a pedestrian, if he is in a vehicle blind spot, there is always the chance that an accident can occur. What else do plant operators and plant companies have to contend with? Well, the increase of theft, criminal activity, and damage to their equipment. Damage also working in harsh working environments. This can increase the ongoing costs for a plant operator with their assets that they've got. Because of the increase in noise working on construction sites, many pedestrians and many operators have to wear ear defenders. Now, while this solves the noise pollution to the operator or the worker, it also prevents them from sometimes not being able to hear the old-fashioned tonal alarms when the vehicle is moving away or towards them. And because the noise can be barely heard by the ear defenders, it can lead workers to ignore the alarms at their own peril. So the option sometimes is people will produce louder alarms, louder tonal alarms to help to combat this. And while this does solve one problem, it can create another in drawing complaints of noise pollution from local residents. And finally, there's also the conflicting and confusing industry specification standards. I'm sure you'll agree that you've come across the situation where what's acceptable on one site isn't always acceptable on another. So is there a solution? Well, yes, there is. There is the solution through the fitment of active and passive safety systems. Now, what do we mean by active and what do we mean by passive? Well, just to give you an example, an active safety system would give you an alert to the driver or to the pedestrian. This would be in the form perhaps of an audible alarm or an audio-visual display working on an optical detection system to alert the driver or alert the pedestrian that there is danger ahead. What we mean by a passive system, well, this would invariably be something like a camera system. The reason why it's passive is it's dependent on the driver still being able to look at the screen to be able to see what the camera can see and take the necessary action. But what are the benefits of fitting these safety systems? Well, as we can see from the slide, that it gives you all-round visibility and will help to eliminate or reduce blind spots on the vehicle for safer operation. This can help contribute to reduce incidents, reduce accidents with plant and pedestrian, further reducing your ongoing costs for plant repair and insurance costs. And also by choosing the right type of alarm for your vehicles can also help to reduce noise complaints. This will no doubt help you with your health and safety requirements and also with compliance for your safe system regulations and also legislation. But ultimately, this will improve your reputation as a contractor, as a business, and as an employer. Now, let's have a look at the Brigade range of products that will benefit you. And if you like the trial on that, you should see the live film that we produced. So what are some of our products that we have? Well, firstly, we have our elite range of products for monitors. These are up to 7-inch, can give you up to 4 camera inputs and enable you to see multiple views with auto triggering. Now, you might ask the question, what are auto triggers? This enables you to see different camera views that can be either cycled through or programmed on a vehicle operation, which means your driver doesn't have to touch the screen. He just carries on with his day-to-day work, but has the added benefit of being able to see what the cameras see. As standard on our elite range of products, they are tested and waterproof and dustproof to the highest ingress protection rating. They also have an operating temperature of -40 to +70, so they can work on any construction site anywhere around the world. They comply to regulation 10.5, which means they can be fitted as a line fit product, and they come with a 5-year warranty as standard. To complement our range of monitors, we have our elite range of cameras, which can come as standard with variable lens sizes to enable you to see either a wide angle or a narrow angle for more definition view. They also have a wide dynamic range, which means that they can work in various different lighting levels, in shadows and also in highly illuminated areas. To work in darkness, they have 5 infrared LEDs, which give you ultra low light performance to work any time of the day. You can have the option of standard or shutter cameras to protect the camera from any debris that comes across it when the camera is not in use. And the cameras also have an heating element, which enables you to get rid of things like condensation and fogging that comes on the lens with a lot of other standard cameras. Like its monitor counterpart, it operates from -40 to +70. It also carries the same regulations and compliance, and it also has a 5-year on-site warranty. Another part of our range of obstacle detection systems is our radar system. Now, we have 4 particular types of products, with 3 with a fixed detection length, but 1 with a programmable detection length, which means that you can set the distance and you can set the width of the beam pattern to suit any vehicle. Our technology of radar uses frequency modulated continuous wave. Now you might think, well, what is that? Well, compared to other radars, which just send out a single pulse to detect where the obstacles are, ours is sending out continuous pulses every millisecond to give you a more accurate detection of how far you are away from an object. Just like the Elite range, it is tested and works to the highest ingress protection ratings for water and dust, and also has a high mechanical shock setting as well. Okay, and this product can be fitted either aftermarket or online fit as well. This product comes with a 3-year warranty, but more recently we've been able to augment our camera systems and radar systems so you can now have an on-screen display. So whatever you see as an obstacle can appear in the camera as well, also giving you an accurate distance of how far you are away. One final point on the radar system, the programmable system allows you to program blind spots in the event of things like a vehicle overhang, so it can disregard that. It can also make the detection length of the rear of the vehicle further or closer away, giving you much more margins of error when you're reversing up to close obstacles and working in and around pedestrians as well. And finally, we have our white sound reversing alarms, which is the safest alarm in the world due to their instant locatable and directional sound technology. Now, what we mean by locatable means that when you hear a white sound alarm, you are instantly attracted to the noise. So you will look in the direction that the alarm is coming from, unlike tone alarms, which can be quite disorientating. The noise is also directional, so as the vehicle reverses towards you, the sound becomes much more pronounced and clear. As the vehicle reverses away from you, the noise dissipates quite quickly. It uses multi-frequency broadband sound and comes in 3 levels, 102, 107 decibel, but it also has a self-adjusting option of 87 to 107 decibels. Now, this is invaluable if you're working in a construction area that is located close to a residential area, because the self-adjusting alarm will adjust to the ambient noise that's going on around. So put simply, if the site is quieter, the alarm will be quieter, but it will always stay above the ambient sound. If the site is louder, the alarm will be louder. This will help to eliminate noise nuisance. This product comes also with a lifetime warranty. Brigade have a philosophy of fit and forget. We want to be able to supply a product to you, whether it be aftermarket or an aligned fit, that will be a robust product for a robust industry and a robust terrain. So we make sure that our products are tested to the highest quality to work in the harshest conditions. And as a result of that, we can offer a 3, 5, and in some cases, a lifetime warranty on our products. There is an old adage that people have often heard that you buy cheap, you buy twice. Now, at Brigade, we don't believe in that. We believe in supplying the best. And as a result, we recruit the best engineers to work in our research and development teams to make sure that we're always one step ahead of the competition. And we make sure that our products are built to a consistently high standard, making sure they're benchmarked against EMARC certification and also ISO certification. We want to make sure that you have a quality, reliable product fitted to your quality, reliable machine. And as you can see from the slide as well, we use various approval bodies and testing houses to make sure that our products meet the highest standards. Things to think about when you are looking for a prospective supplier for safety systems. With regard to fitting, is there a fitting service available? Is this fitting service being able to provide you nationwide? How quickly can you access the product? From Brigade's perspective, we can fit the product all over the world if required, and we can supply it to you ex-stock. We also give you the option of having an upgrade to on-site warranty if you require. We also provide you with dedicated after-sales support within the United Kingdom. We also provide you with online technical support through technical bulletins, technical support, and also documentation and online tutorials to help you with the product. Again, I'd like to thank you for your time for listening to this. I'd also like to thank Planet for allowing me to exhibit here today.
James, thank you very much. Let's take a look at some of the questions that we've received while you've been talking. A question, first of all, from Leon. How adaptable is this for users? Can more cameras or sensors be added for different types and size of plant, or is the system sold as is?
No, as mentioned, with regard to the camera systems, you've got the option to add four cameras to it as well. So if you want to add more cameras, you can. Brigade equipment is very modular, so you'll find that whatever we fit systems, they integrate with other systems. So as I mentioned, our camera systems can integrate with our radar systems and also our ultrasonic systems. So you have got extra versatility. We try and sell a solution rather than just selling a product because, let's face it, all companies are different.
A question about the radar system, in particular the BackSense radar system. Is it compatible with any type of machinery?
With regard to compatibility, if it's fitting to existing technology on the vehicle, we'd have to have a look at it. When it comes to particular makes and models, then yes, it is compatible because it is a standalone product. Also as well, depending on the type of vehicle layout or size or shape of the vehicle, that will be dependent on the type of BackSense system that they go for.
A question from George Daniels. How effective are the Elite range cameras during nighttime operation?
Well, really, we'd have to probably show you some that working operation really as well. It works at ultra low lumen levels. So I think we've worked at lumen level almost of 1. As you'll appreciate, camera systems are very similar to the human eye, that they'll work better in the optimum way in daylight. So at night, you will always have reduced visibility, but we do supply camera systems to work for 24/7 operation.
Yvonne asks, is there an extended warranty offered? And if there is, once that expires, how easy is it to fix these things?
Okay, so what we do, our warranty is offered new for old. So the warranty would be for up to 5 years that we offer on certain products. With the products that have a less warranty than 5 years, we do offer a warranty extension and also an upgrade to on-site warranty. We have numerous resellers around the UK. So it is a case where, because the equipment is modular, in most cases it's unplug the product, plug the new product in, and it continues working with existing systems that are already fitted to the vehicle.
And Maisie asks about maintenance. Can the maintenance be done in-house, or do they have to use your specialist engineers?
The maintenance element of the Brigade product, it is virtually maintenance free. So if it is a case of replacing the camera systems and also the radar systems, they tend to be not really too much work goes into actually maintaining them. If anything breaks down, it is simply plug and play. So you can replace them yourselves. Other people prefer the benefit of having one of our installers come and do it for them. So it just depends how proficient they are as a business. Okay,
James, thank you very much. That's James Ashford. Now we hear from Bill Hill, who's the Chief Executive of the Lighthouse Construction Charity. Plant Planet wanted to highlight how even simple technology can save lives in the construction industry, and we could think of no better person to do that than Bill. So welcome, please, Bill Hill.
Thank you very much, Declan, and it's a real pleasure to be here. It is Mental Health Awareness Week as well this week, so I'm going to cover a few topics there as well whilst we've got this this platform. But a little bit about who we are, why we exist, and what we do, I think is appropriate as well, because not everyone here will know about us. Our charity has been around for a long time. It's 100% dedicated to the mental, physical and financial well-being of all construction workers and their families in the UK. In fact, it has got a very sound founding in the plant industry as well. I won't go into the legend of how it all started, but let's say a group of senior people were thinking it was a good idea in 1956, probably had a few pints, came out and saw a lighthouse and said, let's create a charity that will be a beacon of hope to everyone in the industry. Because back in 1956, we were losing 200 people a year on our construction sites to fatalities. Started off as a benevolent charity, giving out money to the families to help them through a poverty situation as a result of those type of accidents. But nowadays we do so much more. But the big question is, why the heck do we exist as a charity? And I think everybody in this audience will understand that the rewards inside the construction industry can be quite significant, but the risks, and you've heard a lot about that in many of the presentations beforehand, can be quite high. And safety has come along a huge way since way back in 1956. But every year we still lose about 30 to 40 people on site through fatalities on site. And something that goes a little bit under the radar is the number of accidents that incapacitate a worker to such an extent that they can't return to work. So over 2,000 workers every year we see having an accident of such ilk. And the other thing is, you know, cancer has been occupational cancer. Unfortunately, construction is the #1 for occupational cancer cases attributed to working in the construction industry. But the thing that knocked the industry for six really is that two major statistics came out back in 2017 with the Stevenson Farmer report, is that stress, anxiety and depression accounts for 1/5 of all work-related illness and absence. And that's the ones that are recorded. We believe it could be actually higher than that. And the one that, again, just shocked the industry is that our construction industry is now the #1 industry for suicides, and no industry wants to be #1 in that category. And if you look across, it's not just the UK, Ireland, and even the US and Australia suffer from the same issues within construction. And 50% of all male suicides in Ireland are from construction. So when you amalgamate all this, and if there's one statistic you walk away from here from and say, this is something we've all got to do something about, something we're all morally obligated to help out on, is that every working day in the UK and Ireland, we're losing 2 construction workers to suicide. Just think about that for a second. That's about 500 people a year, 500 of our workforce. So it's 10 times, at least 10 times more likely to see a suicide than a fatality on site. So what are we doing about it as a charity? Well, we've got a mission, and our mission is quite simple, that we don't want any construction worker, so no construction worker or their family should be alone in a crisis. They should always have somewhere or someone to turn to. And we deliver 3 basic services as part of our charitable giving. First of all, we offer a 24/7 helpline. Old technology, you may say, but very valuable technology. This is completely an anonymous, confidential phone line that's not attributed to any company or any manufacturer. This is all data that's highly confidential. MD in our construction industry can phone that number 24/7 and receive emotional, physical or financial well-being support. To back up that activity in our helpline, we created an app, again, newer technology. And in fact, our newest and latest version of that app has just been launched today. So if you haven't done so already, please download the app. It's called the Construction Industry Helpline app. Took us ages in marketing to come up with that, but it actually marries up nicely with our Construction Industry Helpline. And the third area, due to COVID the last year and the pandemic, we said we needed to produce proactive services. So again, online, using the technologies like Zoom, we have produced a whole suite of well-being courses that look at stress management, work-life balance, mindfulness, building resilience, a whole suite of products. They are aimed at increasing and improving employee well-being. And all of this is absolutely free to everyone in the construction industry. Are we on mission? Yes, last year we supported 2,400 families in crisis in the construction industry. And you can see there from the graph that there was a big hike in March when the first lockdown came down, because people were really confused and really worried about their livelihoods, what was going to happen. And we helped a lot of people through that. But what we're seeing now, right into this year, is again a massive increase in the number of calls coming through to our helpline, which is good in one sense that people are seeking help, but also it says that we've still got a real problem, and we've had a 70% growth in complex cases. So again, that there is for everyone. We've got the capability, we've got the scalability. So again, please help get this message out to your people to get the support they need. The little app, again, absolutely doing brilliantly. There's over 3,000 pathways to help and support inside this app. We've curated a lot of information and made it available to everybody. Again, it's a free downloadable app from both of the app stores, and launched today is support for mental health first aiders in there, because we've done a lot of work with creating a lot of mental health first aiders into the construction industry. And now they've got a button here on that app so they can get support, because they are carrying the emotional weight of the industry. So now they've got somewhere to turn to get decompression, help and support as well. And I'll talk about the latest Mind Builder project, which is a hugely exciting project, in just a moment. From a training point of view, again, these training courses are all absolutely free. If you go onto our website, you can register for these courses. They're all available remotely on Zoom, 45 minutes long, and will give you some really golden nuggets to take away to help work-life balance, coping with stress, looking at financial well-being. But also we're offering the mental health first aid aware courses to black hats and supervisors, which is a half-day course, that's free. And also mental health first aiders, the 2-day course is absolutely free as well. So there are spaces available on our scheduled courses, and please take advantage of that for your organizations. We're trying to drop all the barriers to entry to getting this type of help and support into your workforce. Have we got challenges ahead? Well, yes. And our biggest challenge will be, for some of you, you've never heard of us. And hopefully now with this presentation, you will take away the content and hopefully look and see how you can deploy and get this communication out to your teams. But the bottom line is, if people don't know we are there for them, we simply cannot support them. And one of the things that gives us no pleasure at all is to hear that something has happened, and we have dealt with cases where we're looking after the family, but the individual who has decided to end their life did not know we were there for them. And I'm not saying that we can, turn them around or maybe stop that suicide happening, but gosh, we'll have a damn good effort of trying to resolve the problems that are running in that person's mind and help the turnaround situation. What we've launched this week in Mental Health Awareness Week is a huge campaign, and please, I implore as many of you as you can to join this campaign and get this awareness out there to your workforce. It's called Help Inside the Hard Hat. It's quite a strong message. It's saying our industry is physically and mentally tough, but together with our partners, we will work night and day so that you are a worker that needs support. We're always here to help inside the hard hat. And this whole campaign manifests itself in magical colour to give a little bit of hope to the industry. And the messages are very strong. He was the joker, the one who made everyone on site cry with laughter. And then one morning, we just cried. And then it goes back to saying, if you are a workmaker struggling, there's always help inside the hard hat. We've even made the posters available where if you want to put your own logos on here before you distribute them to your sites or wherever you might distribute them to, you can actually take and download the information and put your own logos on here. And all of this material, again, is absolutely free. It's available from our website. It's downloadable in artwork ready, print ready format, ready for you to do in A4, A2, A3, A2, or even hoarding size. You can get all those different sizes. It's all available for you to use to distribute the message. The other thing is we want to keep this free. It's really important that we make it no barrier to entry for anybody to be able to get access to these services, these valuable services for support. And to do that, we need your help. We need more company supporters. We need companies to say, actually, we can afford 250 quid a year. We can afford £1,000 a year. We can afford £2,000 a year. We don't care how much that is, but what we need is for companies to stand up and take some weight on their shoulders and help us with an annual pledge to help us keep this services absolutely free for everyone. And I say we don't determine how much you can pledge for support. All we need is your annual support to help us in some way to make sure we can plan and grow these services and keep them absolutely free for everyone. But also, and we're talking about innovation and technology, we need to keep on doing this in every aspect of the work we do. And we are just launching a major program. Last week, we launched Mind Builder as a major program. It's an 18-month technical project to make well-being information, advice and guidance for everyone absolutely available. High quality e-learning for everyone in the construction sector. Predominantly, it's aimed at small businesses, sole traders, and agency staff, because those are the people that need us most. And they're very difficult to get to and it's not easy for them to get access to this type of quality information. So this is a Mind Builder project, is building this technology hub where all this will be available through smartphone technology and website technology, but also we're going to make it white labeled so that any company who has got a well-being aspect to their own activities can plug and play these very, very valuable assets into their own website and make them available to everybody in their own website. But the soupçon of magic that we think is that we've hooked up with the supply chain school, because when people are looking at this, maybe this lighter touch understanding of these subject matters, they can also do a deep dive into subject material and to really do a full e-learning package on maybe anxiety, managing stress, or whatever it might be. But whilst they take that deep dive, they actually deep dive into the supply chain school. And when they're in the supply chain school and they are a pupil of the supply chain school, they can look around and they can see the whole massive array of assets that are available for further learning on lots of different topics, not just well-being. And once they're in there, they can get access to all of those other educational products absolutely free as well. So that's why we've called it Mind Builder. It's like going to the gym for your head and your brain. So I hope again we'll keep you up to date as to how that's progressing, but we'll see that be launching. It's starting now. We're looking at the assets and looking to build that for the future. So how can you help? Please, please, please get on board, get the assets, get it out to your people. If you can support us with a company support or a pledge, that'll be absolutely magnificent too. But before I leave you, I want to just give you one other little bit nugget here. And if all you do is take away, this is just this little video gives 3 golden nuggets that you can take away today and think about and act upon to make the place better for your workforce.
Yeah, mate. Job's brilliant. It's going really well. Dry as a bone, no tea, no coffee, but listen, got to crack on. Need a favour. You know Steve? Yeah, divvy spread. I've got a horrible feeling he's not going to show next week. Can you try and sort us out a couple of lads to push the job on? Tony, you right?
How am I supposed to pay the mortgage? What's the wife going to say? What about the kids?
Got your reply from the chippy, mate? Mate, you're right. You don't seem yourself. I'm a bit worried.
Actually, no, I'm not, mate. I'm struggling financially.
Right now, our human spirit is being tested to the limit. So if you see somebody struggling, don't stand on the sidelines. Follow these 3 simple steps. Number 1, ask twice. You often get a different answer second time round. Number 2, listen, non-judgmentally. Sometimes it only needs a sympathetic ear. Number 3, always be kind. Spontaneous acts of kindness can give people a real lift, and it makes you feel good too. You could be a lifesaver today. All it takes is someone to notice and care.
So thank you for that. I don't know if we've got any time for any questions, but happy to take some if there are any, Declan.
Bill, thank you very much for that thought-provoking presentation. Some really shocking figures and findings in that research. Lots of requests for practical information that can be used in a practical way. George asks, are there any specific signs that can lead to recognizing signs of poor mental health in the workplace? We saw a little illustration of it there in that video, in fact. Is what are the warning signs? What to look out for?
The big things to look out for is change. And that's quite difficult in the construction industry when you've got such a transient labour force. But what you're really looking for, if somebody is normally ebullient and happy and lucky and just looking great and just participating in everything, and then they start changing that change, there's something happening there in the background. So you're always looking for change or in somebody, the way they normally operate, and that's one of the key things that you can look for. Somebody who normally volunteers for stuff suddenly doesn't start volunteering for stuff. They could be stressed. That's the sort of type thing you're looking at. So the early warning signals. But again, we've got some, that mental health awareness course, half-day course, is all tuned into that, and it gives you that. If you're a people manager, it gives you some soft skills to just identify those trigger points. And we've all got some sort of radar that can tell as well. We get an intuition. Females have got more intuition than we have as males, but we've got it too. We just need to grow it.
And the other side of that question, this is from Maisie, asking if there are behaviours that we need to change, if there's language we need to avoid using, behaviours that we need to stop to try and create a kinder workplace for everyone.
You've hit the nail on the head, Daisy. That's the cultural change inside construction is going to be a long road to go down, and construction is 87% male dominated. And unfortunately, the male has some very unfortunate and unhelpful stoic beliefs around certain subject matters that all need to be brought into some sort of change management process to help that through the other side. And it would help a lot if there were more females in construction as well, and there was a better balance as well, because you'd see a different culture change coming through. But that's the big road that we're on, Declan, and I think it'll see our lifetimes out, I'm sure. But it's got to change to make it a better place, not just for now, but for the next generation coming in.
And this is recapping on one or two things that you've mentioned already, but it's worth emphasising them. Lucy asks, can you recommend any methods that have helped increase mental health in particular? How do you build things like resilience?
Well, there's lots of coping strategies around resilience and building resilience. I say there's a lovely little workshop we run. It is about building resilience. Again, it's a 45-minute, golden nugget discussion that we don't have time for here. But there are methods and coping strategies. Now, I implore you to download the app. The app's just full of information about building resilience, how to handle anxiety, coping strategies, how to measure how anxious you are. And ultimately, if you need help, it gives you the button to push to say, I need help for this, and it'll give you a button to push and help you on your way. But I'd also implore that they go to the website, look for the course, get on that 45 minutes, and hopefully pick up some golden nuggets that are going to help them grow themselves in the future.
So that's the one thing that anyone watching this can do today, is download that app. Give us the name of the app again so we know what we're looking for.
Yep, it marries up with our helpline. It's called the Construction Industry Helpline. you will find it on both the Play stores.
Bill Hill, thank you so much for your time and for giving us so much to think about today. That's Bill Hill. He's the Chief Executive of the Lighthouse Construction Charity. And that brings our discussions together as part of Plan to Planet the Digital Future to a conclusion. We want to know what you thought about it, what worked, what didn't work, what you think might be improved. There will be a link to the feedback survey in the chat box, so please do take the time to give us your honest and brutal opinion on what you thought about the event today. Just follow the link that you'll find in the chat box. We are grateful to our sponsors for their support and insight. Without them, the event today would not have happened. They are the Construction Equipment Association, BOMAG, Green Power Systems, Merlo, Brigade Electronics, and the Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity. So we say thank you to all of them. And just to remind you, or to bring to your attention, a future conference that might be of interest to you. This is the event on the efficient future. You could use the QR code that's on that slide currently on your screen. Just scan that to register your interest and to get some more information. This event takes place on the 7th of September from 10 a.m. It is on the efficient future. So just scan that QR code on your screen to register your interest for that. I'm Declan Curry. Thank you very much for your company today.